All right, welcome back. Let's hit right to the AFC North. The AFC North is my favorite division in football. It's not the best, but I love watching AFC. I don't know why I do. I love watching the AFC North. I don't know. Again, it's Ravens Steelers. Ravens Bengals last year gave me the two most. I think those two games last year, Ravens Bengals, the Thursday night game and the one in overtime.
You're an
Those
offense
two games.
guy.
Yeah. Well, again, but the AFC North is usually actually a defensive division. So like I enjoy watching Ravens Steelers because I know watching Ravens Steelers, I'm not going to get anything else in any other. Like I know it's going to be like 19-16. I enjoy punts when it comes to Ravens Steelers. Like if like the Ravens and Steelers will play, if the Panthers and Saints played an exact game that the Ravens Steelers, I wouldn't like it. I would like, I don't want this on my television. I don't want to watch a 19-16 Panthers Saints game. But with Ravens Steelers, I embrace that because I just know that that's what I'm getting, and I enjoy. Like I'm not expecting Ravens Steelers to be 35-31. Ravens Bengals for sure, but AFC North games are really fun. So let's hit the AFC North as we're getting into it right now. The Ravens are the heavy favorites, obviously. At 11.5 is their over/under win total. I love Baltimore's roster this year. I was expecting to go over on this and an easy over, but then I went through their schedule and I was like, man, this is really tricky. Like they can win 11. Like I had them going 11-6, so I actually am on their under. But I think that they're a more dangerous playoff team this year. I just think that the division is overall better. Like I think they swept Cincinnati last year. I think both those wins against Cincinnati were coin flip games. They could have easily lost both. Cincinnati shanks the kick in overtime, or they would have won that game. Cincinnati misses the 2-point try at the end of the game in Baltimore Thursday night. They could have won that game. So I think that they're closer than what they were last year. Like Baltimore won 13 games last year. They could be a 13-win team again, and maybe I'll look stupid, but I think that they're probably closer to 11-6. It's just tough. 11.5 is a lot of wins. I almost always default to the under because it's so many wins. Something can go wrong, and the under could. I don't know. I think 11-6 is still a good team. Like they're gonna make the playoffs, win the division probably. And I like them a lot as far as their roster. I think their roster is really good. But I went under because I had them right at 11 wins. I can't go over because it's just I like Cincinnati more this year. I like Pittsburgh more this year, actually, ironically enough.
Wow.
Yeah, I know that sounds weird, but I just like the division more. I think the division's better. I think the AFC as a whole is better because last year there was some like weird quarterback stuff. I just think that overall it's got to be a better conference, and I think that ultimately that someone's wins got to get boosted down a little bit. Because I mean, like Kansas City went 15-2, Baltimore and Buffalo both won 13 games. Those are a lot of wins. I don't think it's gonna happen quite like that this year. Like there should be more parity in this league or in this conference. Yeah. Like we talked.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I went over on the Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to be the best team in football this year.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of hard. Like we talked about, like there's really not any holes on this team.
No, there's not. There's not. No.
And it feels like unless Lamar goes down, it doesn't matter. There's another guy there, and it's not like maybe Derrick Henry would kind of sting. Yeah, I think just the kind of the identity of their offense, they're still going to win a ton of games. And they've got young guys like I love Nate Wiggins is kind of stepping into that cornerback one role. They've got a couple really nice young linebackers. Roquan Smith kind of always has been anchored down that defense for a few years now. So it just kind of feels like, and that offensive line just getting older, getting a little better, working with Lamar a little more. And, you look at last year, and I firmly believe Lamar should have won MVP last year. I mean, those numbers were ridiculous. And, obviously I'm not saying he's going to go 41-4 again for 5,000. That's really tough to do. I'm not saying he's going to do that, but I'm not saying I don't think he needs to do that. I think that he can maybe take a step back, throw a few more picks, and they're still going to win 12 games. I really like the Ravens this year. My biggest question for the Ravens, and maybe I'm kind of reading a little bit ahead on the book, is what are they going to do in the playoffs? It feels like year for the last really since 2019, since Lamar's first MVP. It's kind of been you're great in the regular season, you walk down everyone outside of your division, sometimes even in your division, and you get to the playoffs, and it kind of feels like Lamar tightens up a little bit. Yeah. And that's not a jab at Lamar. I think he cares so much. I think that the reason he tightens up is because he wants to win so bad. But what are the Ravens going to do to kind of take maybe the pressure off his shoulders or make sure that he's playing to the person that they know he is? Because to me, this Ravens team top to bottom is great. They love playing for Harbaugh. And they they're kind of like the Eagles, but better. Like then even better. Like it's a great environment. I think Lamar's better than Hurts, obviously.
Yeah.
The line's not the same, but like they've got Derrick Henry. So it's just I think the Ravens are great. And you said you're higher on the Bengals this year. I get it. The Bengals are great, but it just feels like that defense is just not going to be enough. And if for some odd reason Trey Hendrickson's not suited up, they were ranked last in every single stat without Trey Hendrickson on the field last year. I like not every single stat, but like that's been an exaggeration, but it's true. So we're into it, but I love the Ravens and I went over.
Yeah, again, I can't really disagree with that. I just think that Baltimore, I have someone else winning 14 games, which is why I have Baltimore not winning 12. It's essentially what it is, and it might come down to week 1. But I just, again, their schedule is a little bit tougher than the other team I was going to talk about later. And I just think Cincinnati is going to be better this year. Maybe not. Again, they went 9-8 last year, but Cincinnati lost so many ridiculously stupid one-score games that I'm a firm believer in those even out, and I don't believe their defense will be much better. But they lose week 1 to New England. They lose on a heartbreaking, weird defensive pass interference call to the Chiefs week 2. They lose week 3 because the Commanders simply don't punt. I mean, it's literally they just didn't punt the ball one time. So they lose by 5 to Washington. They lose both those Baltimore games, which they probably should have won at least one of those games if just normal things happen.
You talk about normal things, but it was that defense.
100%. No doubt. But again, I just feel like something's got to even out their way. Like they got to get a couple good breaks. They did get a good break against Dallas on a football game with the block punt, But overall, they had a lot of bad breaks last year. Like they lost a lot of close games they should not have lost. They lost by 6 to Pittsburgh at home. They should not have lost that game. So I just think that Cincinnati can win 10 games. I'm on Cincinnati's over at 9.5. I had them winning 10 games, and I don't like anything about their defense. Their defense stinks, and I totally get that. But I trust Burrow. I trust T. Higgins. I trust Jamar Chase. I love Chase Brown. I trust the offense. Is basically what I'm saying here. This might be stupid because I've been on Cincinnati's over for the last 3 years now. And if they go under again this year, this would be the 3rd year in a row where I look very stupid betting on Cincinnati. But I just think Cincinnati's got they can't miss the playoffs 3 years in a row with Burrow. Just can't happen. Now 2 years ago he was injured, got hurt when they were 4-2 and in a playoff spot, or 5-2, 5-3, whatever it was. And then last year he has an outstanding year. I believe he had the best year of any quarterback. Now that doesn't win you MVP. So you got to have a good record. Obviously they did not have a good record. 9-8's not going to get it done. Their defense was terrible. So if it is terrible again this year and they go 9-8, 10-7, then he won't win it either. But I just think they got to get to 10 wins. They got to get back to the playoffs. 9-8 does not get you in the playoffs, really. Not usually in the AFC, does it?
Yeah.
So I'm on Cincinnati's over, and I probably will look stupid. I mean, you probably are on their under because their defense is terrible, and for all the reasons you mentioned, their defense is not good at all. Without Trey Henderson, if he's not there, which apparently they're fielding calls on him possibly being traded. If they trade him, they're not stopping anybody.
Yeah,
it's not happening. So
I am on their under just barely. I think that it's 9.5 it's just tough because. And you talk about regression, and I'm not going to say Joe Burrow is going to regress because that's not what I would even call it. But I don't know if he's going to go for 48 touchdowns and 4,800 yards again. It was incredibly impressive.
He shouldn't have to do that, though. He should not have to.
He shouldn't have to. But where did the Bengals improve on defense? I don't know if they really did. I like they got Barrett Carter. He had a pick the other day. But it just kind of feels like they didn't get much better. And if Trey Hendrickson is not in it, they've got nothing. They brought the new defensive coordinator. They brought Al Golden in. I think he's going to make it a little better. Yeah. But it's just I can't be sold, right? Yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to be all in on that, And I think at the end of the day, it kind of comes back similar to the Cowboys to the front office. It's pretty much since 2021 they've been a financial mess. When they paid Joe Burrow and then they just they paid Joe Burrow, they paid Jamar Chase, and then they paid T. Higgins, and they're just like, all right. You guys go win us another AFC North, or go get us back to the Super Bowl. And it's just that's not how it works. You got to have guys. You got to have the right defensive personnel. You got to have the right offensive line. You got to be willing to spend on your important positions like defensive end, Trey Hendrickson. And it kind of feels like the Bengals have really kind of almost turned an eye. They've got. I don't know if this is true, but I saw they have the smallest personnel, front office personnel group in the league. I
believe it is. Yeah.
Kind of they don't really invest in themselves.
No, they don't. They don't invest.
They get everything out of Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow is awesome, and I think no matter who you are, no matter where you went, Joe Burrow is going to be awesome. And they did a great job. They drafted him. They drafted Jamar. They drafted T. Higgins.
Pretty good job drafting. Oh yeah.
They draft well, but it's just they don't supplement their talent well. They don't use the transfer portal. If I'm going to make a college football little analogy there, it kind of feels like they're not financially. They're just not up to standard. And so I like the Bengals. I like them a lot. I really want them to make the playoffs, but. I'm pretty high on the Steelers as well.
Oh, really?
We'll get to that right now. I can start on that now if you'd like.
Well, okay. Well, real quick on the Bengals, because I agree. They don't. Do they know they have a defense to spend on? They know they have to field a defense. I mean, they have to stop Lamar and their teams. They have to stop Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Exactly. Do they know that? I mean, it feels like they don't even actually know they have a defense to actually put on the field. They have to actually spend money on that side of the ball. Now let's go to the Steelers because. You mentioned them. They spend money on defense. It's almost the opposite of the Bengals. They don't spend money on offense nearly as much. Now, they did give DK a contract. But so what are your thoughts on the Steelers? I mean, I guess you're high on them.
Yeah, the DK contract is a joke. So I'm not even going to – I'll get that out of the way now. That was terrible. But I really like Mike Tomlin. I've got a ton of respect for him, and they doubt him every year, and he continues to churn out at least 500 seasons.
At least 500 seasons, right? Yeah.
And I think he's got, I think Aaron Rodgers still has a little bit in the tank. I think he's better than what Russ gave him last year.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be fun to watch. I like the Jalen Ramsey pickup. Obviously, he's great. TJ Watt, he's one of those guys who's going to be consistently one of the best players in the league. DK Metcalf will be interesting. I'm not exactly sure what him and Rodgers will look like, but I think that I like him over the Browns for sure. And top to bottom, offensively and defensively, I probably like the Bengals more, but the Bengals are so bad defensively that you can't. I just have to say Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's not going to be what he was last year. I don't think. I don't think he's going to do that. And so if he's not, I almost like the Steelers more. It's hard to say that because the Bengals have so much talent.
They have more talent.
Bottom, coaching staff, front office. The Steelers are well run. They haven't won in a while, but they win their regular season games. They're in dogfights with Baltimore every year. They beat Baltimore.
Yeah.
And the Bengals just aren't that. The Bengals want to outshoot the Ravens, and you can try, and you maybe are going to get successful. But I believe Joe Burrow's 1-10 against Baltimore in his career.
It's not great. Yeah, it's not great.
And obviously, quarterback head to head is not what we're arguing here. But it's what are the Bengals? The Bengals, you had your miracle run to the Super Bowl, and it's just kind of after that you're like, I don't know. So I'm high on the Steelers as much as I'm just low on the Bengals just on defense.
I can see you're low on the Bengals for sure. I mean, look, they got to win their division games.
Low on the Bengals defense.
Yes, it really comes down to is the gap between the Bengals defense and the Steelers defense so large because the Steelers defense is so much better than Cincinnati's. But I think we all acknowledge that Pittsburgh's offensively challenged. I mean, even if Rodgers can turn back the hands of time, who is their wide receiver too? Is it Calvin Austin? Is it Roman Wilson? They don't have George Pickens. It would have been nice to see Pickens and Metcalf. What that dynamic would have looked like. They don't have Najee Harris anymore, that bruising running back. They did draft Caleb Johnson. I like Caleb Johnson. I think the offensive line still sucks. I mean, being totally honest, which is why I'm out on Pittsburgh as an actual playoff team. They could win 9 games again. Yeah. Their over-unders at 8.5. And by the way, the over is -110 and the under is -110. So Vegas is literally saying, have at it. They either win 9 or they win 8. We have no idea. They could. I mean, heck, they can even go 8-1, which would preserve Tomlin's not losing season streak. And I wouldn't be surprised. I think they're a really average roster. I like the Ramsey move, but coincidentally, it doesn't really make any sense because who are their safeties? I like the move if Ramsey's going to transition and play safety, which would kind of prolong his career as a 30-year-old corner. But who are their safeties? It's Juan Thornhill, and then it's who else? Beanie Bishop? I have no idea who their safeties are. They're expensive up front with TJ Watt and Highsmith and Cam Hayward, who apparently wants another extension at 37 years old. You're not getting it. So I like them. They draft the kid from Oregon, Derek Harmon, who I like a lot. They're kind of grooming him to be the next Cam Hayward. Their linebackers are obviously really good. I like Nick Herbig. They got depth at pass rusher, obviously. And the Steelers are the same team every year. They're going to invest in defense. They're going to beat you with turnovers, TJ Watt, strip sacks, and they're going to try to not make mistakes. And Russell Wilson, took a lot of sacks last year. I don't think that Aaron behind that O-line is going to be as mobile as Russ. So I do believe he's better than Russ. But as far as what they want to do, I just don't know. Their offense I don't think it's going to be that good either. I like Jonnu Smith, and I know Aaron loves his tight end, so they can do some nice 12 personnel stuff with him and Freiermuth. But at the end of the day, Pittsburgh is who Pittsburgh is. They're going to win 8 or 9 games. I think we all know that. Tomlin probably gets him to 9 wins. So if you had to ask me, I'd probably go over, but just barely, and just at 9. Yeah. I would not take them to win 10 games. They somehow did win 10 games last year before losing their last 4. They started 10-3, and they lost their last 4. And then they lost their last 5 if you count the wild card loss that they lost in Baltimore. So they finished 10-8, which is kind of what the Steelers they're going to do. So I had them at 8-9 or 9-8. And if you bet them at 8-9, you're going to look really stupid once Tomlin wins that 9th game, like he does every year. But overall, I don't really think that the Russ to Rodgers thing ultimately does it do anything for them. It's you're going from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer to future Hall of Famer.
I think I'm giving a little bit more respect to Aaron Rodgers.
I am too, but I think you can even acknowledge that the bottom could fall out quicker with Rodgers than it would with Russ. I mean, Russ can at least mitigate some stuff with Rodgers. I mean, we saw with the Jets. The Jets were supposed to win at least 9 games, at least 8 or 9 games, and they won 4 or 5 last year. The bottom completely fell out, and Rodgers wasn't even that terrible. So I think it would be kind of hilarious if Tomlin's first losing season ever is with Rodgers, a future Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm not going to bet it to happen, but I do see a world where it could happen.
I think it's a lot of this out of me is more, it's respect for Aaron Rodgers, respect for Mike Tomlin, and
they're
respect
legends.
for kind of what the Steelers have kind of always been, right? And I said previously that, previous trends don't reflect what the history is going to bring. But, it's just, I think that Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback that Pittsburgh's had
since Big Ben.
Since Big Ben, right? And so it's kind of hard to say, like, I mean, Mike Tomlin's seen it all, and he's still got the defensive core. Like you said, the secondary is a little bit of a question mark. But, you play in a division where you're going to have, like, you're always going to be in a dogfight. You feel like you've got 2 wins against the Browns. The Bengals are kind of, who knows? Like, if Joe Burrow's not playing, you're probably better than or if Joe Burrow's not his full self, you're probably better than the Bengals. So I think they have a pretty tough schedule, but I think that it's a lot of semantics out of me here. It's not my most on-field statistical pick, but I think that I have a ton of respect for the coach, a ton of respect for the quarterback, and I think they find 9 wins in there.
They do have a very tough schedule, and yet they always seem to find 9 wins. So, and it is, I got to give credit to Tomlin. That being said, Tomlin does play down the competition as well as he plays up. I mean, he'll beat Baltimore, and then last year he'll lose to Jameis Winston and the Browns. I mean, it happened. They literally were like 7-2, and then they go into Cleveland and lose. So they can lose clunkers too. So Mike Tomlin give us and take us away sometimes. That being said, they've gone on a QB carousel for the last 5 years since Ben's retired. It's been Mitchell Trubisky. It's been Kenny Pickett. It's been Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. It's been Mason Rudolph, and now they're going to Aaron Rodgers. So, and this is his last year. So after this, you got to find another one. So it just feels like at that point, and I heard Quentin Nelson say this earlier. We'll get to the Colts. So much quarterback turnover is just not a good thing for the offensive line or the teams in general, because you have to have some kind of consistent voice in the huddle every year, or it just doesn't. It's hard to win that way. And again, Tomlin keeps finding ways to win 9 games. And I got to give him credit. But it just feels like, again, eventually the magic pixie dust has to run out. And it's probably not this year. Maybe it's next year whenever they don't have Aaron and they may have to turn to Will Howard or Mason Rudolph again. Who knows? But it doesn't seem like Pittsburgh has an actual long-term plan at quarterback. And ultimately, that just I can't trust you if you don't have a long-term plan at quarterback. As good as Tomlin is at scraping out 9 wins every year and squeezing out every bit of the roster that he can, I don't think this team is not on Baltimore's level. Yeah, they'll probably beat Baltimore once or twice. It's just one of those things where it's just they'll do that. Exactly. Yeah, it's just exactly. Now Cleveland, their over-under is 4.5. This is the lowest out of anyone in the league. I thought it was a little disrespectful that the Saints had 2 more wins than the Browns, according to Vegas. I think they're similar rosters. That being said, I still went under with the Browns. I can't find the wins. I can't find the wins. Their alternative to being terrible last year was saying, "Hey, Myles Garrett, want all of our money," and they gave him more money. So the team didn't actually really improve. They kind of just gave Myles Garrett what he wanted, which is more money.
Yeah. I think we guys spoken on this. I kind of wish they had traded Myles Garrett. It just doesn't make sense to keep him there. He's great to have around. He's a great player, but it should have been a trade. I think the Browns, it's kind of feels like they're tanking for Arch, another one of those teams, kind of like the Saints. Like you said, 2 of the lowest team over under totals. It's interesting. Like, why are we taking 2 quarterbacks in the 3rd and the 5th round? It's just confusing, especially Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel is no one's. And I like Dylan Gabriel in college. I think he could be a respectable backup. But it's like, you're the Browns. Like, you have a lot of places to get better. Like, you gotta be better than that. So, like, I think we're gonna see Shedeur start some games this year.
I do too. Oh yeah.
They just announced Joe Flacco was a starter. Flacco and Shedeur seem to have some kind of relationship of some sort. Yeah. And I think Shedeur is a better player than Dylan Gabriel. Not to make this the whole quarterback thing, but that's kind of the only relevant thing going on in Cleveland this season. Yeah. So it's going to be a long season for the Browns. I went under as well. I think this is a 2 to 3 win team. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see, but they're going to kind of be a punching bag in my opinion. Yeah, they'll be a punching bag. And I like Flacco. He had an awesome year in Cleveland, funny enough, 2 years ago. He let him in the playoffs. And Flacco's been a guy, he's been around Lamar. He's mentored him. He's mentored Anthony Richardson. And now he gets to mentor Shedeur Sanders, because I do think that it's Shedeur Sanders next in line. Pickett's there, but let's be real. That's not a long-term answer. Talent-wise, it's Shedeur Sanders.
It's Shedeur, for sure. And then Flacco, I think he's actually the best guy in the room right now, which is why I don't actually hate the move to start the 38-year-old, 39-year-old Flacco. But yeah, he'll turn to Shedeur at some point this year. The Browns won't be very good. Myles Garrett will be very good, but outside of that, it's not really much. Denzel Ward's already hurt. He's going to be out a couple weeks. Just doesn't feel like it's a good year for Cleveland. It is quarterback driven. Like the narrative and the talk around Cleveland this year will be the quarterbacks. They have 5 on the roster right now, and 6 if you include Deshaun Watson, who's re-ruptured his Achilles now for the second time. Yes, he had it obviously late October last year and re-ruptured it He re-ruptured it in February. So
Yeah.
he's going to miss a good chunk of the season. And at this point, if you're Deshaun, you're getting guaranteed money. So do you even rush back? Probably not. So he might miss the whole season if they're really bad by the time he's actually healthy, which they probably will be. So they have 5 quarterbacks on the roster, 6 if you include Watson, and all 6 of them have question marks one way or another. And as a team, they're not even good. So it's tough. It's tough right now in Cleveland because that team a few years ago was really good. They had a really good team a few years ago, and it seems like they missed their window.
Well, you talk about the Baker stuff, and it's kind of feels like it's their own fault. The money was spent the wrong way. They gave Deshaun Watson $200 million guaranteed, coming off 2 years of no football. So Cleveland's been Cleveland, kind of like the Jets.
Yeah, it seems like bad teams make bad decisions, and you could say they're cursed, but it feels like they've really made their own bed at this point.
Yeah, you make your own luck at a certain point, right?
Yeah, at a certain point, and I feel bad for them, but at some point you have to almost be like, do you feel bad for them a little bit? I mean, it's a terribly run team, and I actually like Kevin Stefanski a lot. That wasn't his call; it was more an upstairs thing because they were so desperate. And not to highlight on the Baker thing too much here, but everyone wanted Deshaun that offseason. Atlanta was in on him, Carolina was in on him, Cleveland was in on him, but at least with Atlanta, they respected Matt Ryan enough to say, hey, we're going to fly out and meet with Deshaun. We're going to try and get a deal done. We respect that you can look elsewhere. And he ended up going to the Colts. Matt Ryan did. Cleveland tried to go sneaky about it, and no one knew. No sources were out there. They just flew and met him without anyone knowing. Finally, I believe Schefter or somebody ended up being like, yeah, Cleveland met late last night with Deshaun Watson, and they didn't even tell Baker, who just got them their playoff win. So they kind of went behind his back and did it sneakily. Watson didn't really want to play there originally because the wind and it was bad weather. He wanted to go back to Southeast, Carolina, Atlanta, New Orleans, whatever. And Cleveland was so desperate that, once Baker found out, he was pissed. Jimmy Haslam was like, we have to get a quarterback now. We can't get neither guy. We can't have Baker be pissed at us and not get Deshaun. So he just made the most desperate move maybe in the history of football.
Crazy.
And get the unprecedented, fully guaranteed Deshaun money, which no one does that. I mean, you don't fully guarantee any contract in football.
Yeah.
But he was desperate and did it, and it just didn't. It backfired. And I don't even blame Andrew Barry, the GM. I don't blame Stefanski, the coach. That was more an owner thing, trying to get eyeballs in Cleveland again, and it backfired. It is what it is. But the Browns are in the cellar of the North, and we can go to the South now. We don't have to spend too much time in Cleveland.
Yeah. So the South is interesting. I really like the Jags this year. I think that I like Liam Cohen. I'm excited to see what they bring. Travis Hunter. I feel like I don't want to miss a game. I always want to watch Travis Hunter. Yeah. Always want to watch Travis Hunter play ball. And so, it kind of feels like, Trevor, he talked about it in an interview almost right away in camp. He was like, Liam Cohen, it feels like he's got answers. He's got offensively, he's got a million places he can throw the football or dump it off or whatever. He's not going to take sacks. He's not going to make careless picks. At least that's kind of how the scheme feels. And you kind of saw that last year with Baker. Baker, who notoriously has kind of been like a bit of a hot-headed, throw into traffic sometimes kind of guy, really kind of limited the turnovers and was almost a poised pocket presence quarterback last year who could take off and run when he needed to. And I think that Trevor does everything Baker can do. He's probably got a little bit of a better arm. He's a bigger cat. He can run if he needs to. So if Trevor's healthy, I'm excited to see kind of how this looks. Obviously the Texans right there next to him. I think that it's them two at the top pretty clearly this year. I love Stroud. I think he's getting better every year. He's still super young. I'm a little unsure how I feel on DeMeco Ryans as a Super Bowl coach. Huh. I think he's a guy who, and I might just be kind of picking at straws here. We're getting late into the offseason. I miss football, but I don't know. DeMeco Ryans kind of confuses me a little bit. And I'm not. Maybe I'm just kind of seeing things, but the season that kind of we saw Stroud have last year, it kind of opened some doors to me. He looked good in the playoffs, which is a 1-game sample size, so it really didn't even matter. But I kind of like the Jags more than the Texans this year is kind of what I'm getting at.
Okay, see, here's the South is so weird. I honestly hate all 4 teams. I don't know if I can say that. I think there's something really, really poor and terrible about all 4 teams that I absolutely hate. The Texans' offensive line could not pass block last year. They couldn't block for anything. It was a terrible offensive line last year. They couldn't protect Stroud. And by the way, the offensive line got worse somehow. It was terrible last year, and they, on paper, got worse. They lose their only good player on the offensive line in Larry Tunsil. So the O-line for Houston is quite bad. The Jags defense is awful. I mean, it's really not good. I love Liam Cohen. I think they're going to have – you mentioned he just has the answers to the test. I love the tight end screens. He's such a great screen designer and screen his scheme is awesome. And he loves – I think the running backs and tight ends benefit a lot from Liam Cohen. Easy completions. Baker had a lot of easy completions last year. I think Trevor will have a lot of easy completions this year. And I just love Liam Cohen's offense. But the Jags defense is very, very poor. I mean, make no mistake. Even if Travis Hunter plays both ways, which he is a receiver first, then corner, the Jags defense is bad. It's not great. There's not a lot of good players there. It's Josh Hines Allen, and then there's a lot of I don't love a lot of the personnel on that defense. The Colts quarterbacks are very bad. So the Texans O-line's terrible. The Jags defense is terrible. The Colts quarterbacks are terrible.
Colts are terrible.
And the Titans in general don't, they're bad kind of a lot of places. So I don't love anyone in this division. I think, maybe I'd go Houston, but I've been going back and forth with Houston and Jacksonville. I think 9 wins might get it done, honestly. And I think just based on Stroud's the best quarterback in the South. So I might just go best quarterback, best head coach, because I think DeMeco Ryans is the best head coach. Like Liam Cohen's a first-year head coach. I don't think Shane Steichen's good at all. And then the Titans have I might just default to DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud because they've been AFC South champions now 2 years in a row. They're only 2 years together. And they have the best defense by far. I mean, no one in this division comes close to Houston's defense. That is the one thing that I would say maybe I would take Houston. With some pause for sure. But in this division, I mean, no one's defense even has come close. Houston's got the best defense by a mile in the South. And they have the best quarterback. So I think I might go Houston, but I do like Jacksonville's offense a lot better than Houston's, by the way. Houston's O-line, as I mentioned, stinks. They can't protect Stroud. So I don't even know if Stroud might not make all 17 games with the way that he's playing behind that offensive line. So I don't know. I guess Houston, but it's Houston and Jacksonville, and I can't trust Indianapolis with Daniel Jones. Give me a break. And then the Titans, their over-under's 5.5. I went under on Indy and Tennessee, but I could see Tennessee getting to 6 wins just because someone has to win games in this division. And I like Cam Ward. I think it's just tough rookie quarterback to bet on the over. But we did see Bo Nix last year and Jane Daniels last year, win a lot of games. It just feels like Tennessee's roster is way far off. But the South is so weird. I mean, can 9 wins win the South? Probably. I don't know. I'm gonna go Houston, but I think Jacksonville's right there. It might go 9-8, 8-9, whichever one you have them at.
Yeah, and I talk about DeMeco Ryans. I think it's more so that the Texans, I feel like, have had such a legit team the last 2 years that it's like they should have been contending with the Bills, the Chiefs, and they kind of were. They won the playoff game, but you could kind of see the whole year that, especially when Nico Collins got hurt, Stroud looked pretty lost offensively. Honestly, like if it wasn't for Joe Mixon having really the incredible year that he had, I think the Texans were a pretty average team last year. So I mean, maybe I just love my Clemson guy. I really like Liam Cohen, but I like
their offense. I'm buying stock on the Jags.
Yeah, offensively, I think there's a great chance. Defensively, obviously, like you said, a ton of holes after Josh Hines Allen. Even if Travis Hunter is a very good cornerback,
he could be a good rookie corner, and they still will have a poor defense.
And they're still gonna have a ton of question marks. It just feels like that the AFC South is just so weak, and it should have been the Texans kind of walk them down once again, but. Maybe I'm just begging for parity. Maybe I'm just kind of looking for something that's not there. But I like the Jags this year, and it'll be interesting to see.
You could talk me into the Jags for sure. I had the Jags hitting their over. They're at 7.5. I don't think they should have the same over-under as Indianapolis. Indianapolis feels like a 7-win team to me. Like maybe they win 8 games, but I mean they won 8 last year, and Indianapolis was terrible. They were not a good team last year. They somehow got to 8 wins with very, very poor quarterback play from both Richardson and even Flacco. When Flacco went in, Flacco was not good. I don't think Daniel Jones is particularly better than either, if I'm being honest with you. So
honestly, I think the Colts are probably the worst team in this division, and
you can talk me into that.
I don't think that's a crazy take. I think that maybe it's just fatigue from seeing all these great rookie quarterbacks, but I think Cam Ward's going to be one of those guys.
I do too.
He's the first one in the facility, last one out of the facility, and he's already a leader. We saw this last year kind of with Jaden, where it was like he was already. And I'm not saying Cam Ward's going to be incredible. I hope he's great. But you can kind of see like he's taken that role and he takes it serious. And he was there in Miami. I heard a story of him in Miami, and when they named him a Heisman finalist, and he got the paper in the mail, and he was like, "All right," like he didn't care. Like he's like, "I just got to." I'm
very nonchalant.
Like very nonchalant, but like he's there for the right reasons. And I really like Cam Ward. So I think it's the Jags and the Texans kind of 1 and 2. I wouldn't be utterly shocked. And the AFC is kind of tough, but I wouldn't be utterly shocked if they both snuck into the playoffs. It would kind of be a squeeze. They both have to kind of overperform, in my opinion. But I think it's the Titans 3rd and the Colts 4th. Any team where you're kind of choosing between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson is going to be pretty low. Yeah, pretty much 4th every time. Yeah. And there are some fun pieces on the Colts, but they've got a ways to go. So it's the South is always kind of fun. It reminds me of the NFC South. It's
very wonky. It's very very weird.
All a little confusing.
Honest to God, George, you can convince me that the Titans can win the South. you could with a straight face. You
I
could
mean,
actually.
Yeah.
The South is so weird. Honestly, if you told me Cam Ward had a Jaden Daniels type of season and drug a roster that's really not that good to 9 wins and the division, I wouldn't be shocked. I really wouldn't because the South is so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, the Titans roster is weird, but I mean, I tell you, there's things about every division team here that you really don't like. I think it is Houston and Jacksonville. And if Jacksonville can just figure out a way to somehow get, opportunistic plays defensively, can they just, and Houston's O-line's so bad. Maybe Stroud doesn't make it through the whole year. They've already just traded John Mechie away. Tank Dell's out the whole year. So yeah, it really is just Nico Collins. And if he goes down, that offense might be terrible. I mean, they might be really, really bad offensively. And I like Stroud. And I'm saying that because they're not doing a great job. That defense is AFC title worthy with Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, Stingley. They got awesome safeties in Petrie and Kamari Lasso. They got dudes everywhere. That defense is awesome for Houston, which is why I wanted to still take them to win the South. But man, there's some question marks on the opposite side of the ball, which should not happen with a third-year quarterback. Usually you build around your quarterback in year 3. You help him out a little bit. Trading away John Mechie when you already have Tank Dell out for the whole year. It's like, thank God we have Nico Collins, but like you said, you can't really bank on that. I mean, the O-line is just so terrible. I didn't quite get the trading Tunsil thing. We'll see how it goes. Maybe they can win the South again, and it won't matter, and they probably will.
Yeah, I think it's become the favorite. But I like a little parity. So.
Yeah, I mean they're favored by 2 games. They're at 9.5. Jacksonville's at 7.5, and Indy is at 7.5. So they are favored to win the South relatively comfortably. But I think Jacksonville's right there, like you said. I mean, I like their offense a lot. I'm buying the Jags' offensive stock. I'm buying stock in Liam Cohen because I like Liam Cohen a lot, and I think the Jags have dudes on offense. Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter. I like Brenton Strange, and then the 2 Clemson guys in ETN and Trevor Lawrence are due for big years. They have to be. They're too talented not to be, and this offense is really good. As far as the scheme is, the Liam Cohen just knows what he's doing offensively. He has the answers to the test. But enough with the AFC. Yeah, 100%. But enough with the AFC South. We don't have to spend time on 4 relatively.
You want to go East or you want to go West?
Let's go AFC East. This is my second lock of 3. I have 3 locks on the over-unders here. I had Buffalo over 11.5 wins. I had them winning 14 games when I did this. Buffalo's schedule is very, very easy.
Yeah, it helps. First bullet point I had.
Yeah, very easy schedule, very manageable. They play a division that is kind of weird. I mean, the Dolphins are in here, and I can say that right now. We're weird. New England's a little weird. The Jets are the Jets might be Army of college football. Are the Jets going to throw the ball at all this year? I mean, they are. It's not looking good from what I heard in training camp. It's a lot of the Jets might not throw the ball. It's really, take the under passing attempts on every Jets game. They might be Army of the NFL. So Buffalo's got a very, very winnable division. They should probably be able to expect 5 wins in the division at least. I had them winning 14 games. They're going to be fair. I think Vegas has them favored in every game this year, and they play Baltimore and Kansas City both at home, which means they're favored in both those games too. They're favored in all 17 games. Now, will they go 17-0? Of course not. But this feels like an easy overlock to me. 11.5 wins is a lot of wins. That's what I said with Philly when I went under with them. It's what I said with the Ravens when under with them. But Buffalo's schedule is so easy. There's no way they don't get to 12 wins. There's no way that they don't get to 12 wins at least. Yeah. And I had them at 14. I had them on the overside because I think they do get Baltimore at home and they get Kansas City at home, which I'm just going to default to the home team anytime that Josh, Lamar, and Patrick play each other. I'm just going to default to the home team every time because it feels like Buffalo beats Kansas City in the regular season every time because it's in Buffalo, and then the playoffs they play them in Kansas City and they lose every time. Buffalo, Baltimore, same thing. Buffalo went into Baltimore last year, week 4, got smoked. Playoff game, they beat them in Orchard Park. Home, it's just tough to beat these guys on the road. They're such good quarterbacks, anyways. You get Josh in Buffalo, it's like almost impossible to beat him. You get Patrick in Arrowhead, it's impossible to beat him, and you get Lamar at M&T Bank, it's almost impossible to beat him. So Buffalo gets a scheduling break, getting the 2 best quarterbacks in football with Lamar and Patrick at home. So I think Buffalo is set up to win at least 12 games, at least. And then the rest of the division, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the rest of the division. It's a little weird.
Yeah, no, so I'm definitely right there with you. Everything you got to say about the Bills, I'm right there with you. I think 11.5 is an easy over. Yeah. Super workable schedule. Josh Allen is Josh Allen. They lose Stephon Diggs, but that's its own thing, Yeah. But yeah, so right after the Bills, this is where it gets a little fun. Patriots Dolphins should be one of the most interesting and competitive kind of 2-3 battles kind of throughout the whole season, And tell me where I'm wrong because I'm very interested to hear. I know you're a Dolphins guy, obviously. So
you're a Dolphins guy.
Is Mike McDaniel on the hot seat? Is the first question I'm here to ask. I think that in my opinion, the answer is yes.
He is. He is. No doubt.
Definitely is. And what is the offense going to look like? Is it more of the same? Is it more kind of that weird little dink and dunk, let Tua play to his style. They brought a couple really interesting running backs in this year. There's kind of a weird little drama in the running back room. It's Achan's room, but also is Ollie Gordon, I believe they brought in.
Yeah, they brought in Ollie Gordon, yeah.
And then Jalen Wilson, like Tyreek Hill came out about it. So it just feels like there's always something going on in Miami. But to be honest, and you're not going to like this, I like the Patriots this year. I think that they've got the best coach in the division in Mike Vrabel. I think I think that Drake May's a high ceiling guy. I'd like bringing in Stephon Diggs to help him have someone to throw to. The Patriots have kind of had nobody in the wide receiver department since Brady left, and even probably before then.
Yeah, even there, they haven't got a receiver right in a long time.
Exactly. And I'm not going to say they're approaching the Bills or anything, but I think that I like them a little more than the Dolphins this year. And I'd love to hear kind of your scoop on what the Dolphins' outlook kind of looks like, because it's very confusing. I still like Tua. I think Tua still has top 10 quarterback football in the tank. It's just, what's it going to look like this year?
This is really interesting. That the Miami and New England are both at 8.5 as far as Vegas' win total. And there's actually juice on New England's over, and there's juice on Miami's under. So Vegas, like you, I think likes New England a little bit more than us. I'm not going to say look, Miami's weird because I don't even know what they're going to look like. I think they're going to be the same offense as they were last year with the dink and dunk stuff, because the way that teams play us is the too high. They sit in too high.
You got too much speed.
Yeah, and they make sure that they basically force us to run the ball, which we cannot do. We cannot run the football. And until we prove that we can, other teams will keep sitting in the too high look and dare us to run the ball and not get beat deep with the speed that we have. I'd like to think that we can run the ball this year a little bit better, because the guard play last year for Miami was the worst in the sport with Liam Eichenberg and Robert Jones. It can't be worse than those guys. They bring in James Daniels from Pittsburgh, who, when he's healthy, is a good guard. And they draft Jonas Savaianaya from Arizona in round 2, another quality left guard. But you're going to hope that those guys are really good day one, or it's going to be an uphill battle for sure to run the ball. And the Dolphins don't have any depth on that offensive line. Like, if anyone gets hurt, which it's not an if, it's a when. And with Austin Jackson, he's got injury history for sure. James Daniels is he only played 5 games last year, so he's another guy that has dealt with injuries. Patrick Paul, we have no idea if he's good or not. He's taken over for Teron Armstead at left tackle, second-year guy out of Houston. We drafted him in round 2 the previous year. So there's some question marks on the offensive line, like there always is with the Dolphins. The running game is interesting because it's A-Chain's room for sure. They have Jalen Wright. They had Alexander Madison as like the replacement to Raheem Mostert, but he now has neck surgery. He's out for the year. So Ollie Gordon steps into that RB3 role, and he could be the RB2 role with the way he's playing in preseason. But that's not enough as far as like to run the ball with. Like, I don't have confidence in that running back room to like force teams out of that too high look. Like, could we run the ball on teams with that running back room and with that offensive line? Probably not. So it might very well be the same offense as it was last year with the dink and dunk stuff with Tua and Tyreek and underneath.
Which has upside.
It has upside. Tua's really good in that, but it's hard to live in that area. You got to run the ball effectively.
Sure.
In this division against Buffalo and those other teams. Like, it's going to be tough to win 9 games. Even though when Tua plays, we always win 9 games. We never won less than 9 games. Well, I guess last year we went 8-9, but Tua missed 7 games. So when Tua's healthy, we're always competitive. So this number feels right to me. I went under. Actually, see, it's weird. Last week I went 9-8 Dolphins. Now I'm going
because it's tough.
They're going to go 8-9 or 9-8. It's similar to Pittsburgh. Yeah. So it's very strange. I think that the Dolphins, probably the safer bet would go under.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the safer bet, because I think they could actually go like 7-10 and 6-10. It wouldn't surprise me if Tua misses games. They're hitting under for sure. He has to play like every game for us to hit the over. And if he plays every game, we'll probably win 9 or 10 games. But he has to play every game, which is an uphill battle for sure. Yeah, exactly. New England, I also had them at 9-8 a week ago, and now I'm going to go 8-9. I'm going under on both. I'm going to go under on Miami and New England, because I think there's too much. Like, everyone loves New England. They won 4 games last year. They were bad. They were terrible. They could double their wins and still go under. They could go from 4-13 to 8-9, and they would still hit the under. I think there's just I'm going to zag here and say that people are too high on the Patriots, because we have no idea if Drake May is good or not. I think we like the way he ended last year, and we kind of just assume that he's going to have a good year too. But we have no idea if he's good. And then I think everyone thinks the O-line's fixed. The O-line is not fixed. They got Will Campbell. The O-line's still bad. Okay, they have a top 4 pick that does not fix the entire O-line. Not in one offseason at least. I mean, you can ask Detroit. They drafted Penei Sewell. That O-line wasn't fixed until 2 years after that. So we'll see with New England. I don't love the receiver room. They got Stephon Diggs and then a bunch of unproven receivers after him. If you're into Pop Douglas, that's fine, I guess. But like, there's not a lot of guys there that I can really trust wholeheartedly. My reasoning for having New England at 8 wins would strictly be Mike Vrabel, because Mike Vrabel, I believe, is is just he'll get you 2 extra wins that you shouldn't get every year. Like that's a 6-11 to me. New England's got a 6-win roster. Like that roster's not very good. I just think that we all, and I love Mike Vrabel, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's an exponentially better coach than Mike McDaniel. And I'm worried as a Dolphins fan, we have more talent than New England. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. The problem I have is if we play New England, I'm afraid that Mike Vrabel is just going to punch Mike McDaniel in the mouth, like his team, because your team might do himself too. He might do it himself too, but your team kind of replicates your coach in a way. Yeah. And Mike McDaniel's team compared to Mike Vrabel's team, it just doesn't seem like a matchup that would be advantageous to us at all. It's like a quote unquote soft football team. It's kind of flashy and quirky against a tough, hard nosed Mike Vrabel led head coaching team. So my worry would be New England's going to be a tougher, physically better coached team than us, but we have more talent. Ultimately, I think they both go about 8 wins, and they're probably competing for a wild card spot. I don't think either get in, honestly. But I can see either one getting in. I can see either one being a wild card. I can't go all the way with New England yet. New England's roster is not good. It's not that good.
No, I think that's a great take. I think that's totally fair. I saw Jalen Ramsey talking about when he was kind of getting out of Miami, and obviously Jalen Ramsey, he's got a little bit of reputation, but he's talking about, he's like, I want to go somewhere where the coach is a little more well-respected. I want to go somewhere where it's not this kind of weird, flashy offense. And everyone's a little different, and because we've seen it be successful for Tua, but like you said, having Tua be healthy for a full season is its own battle. Like that's really just kind of a coin flip. Is Tua going to play all year? But yeah, it's a weird spot because I think the Patriots, they're almost the same as the Bears. They got a second-year quarterback with a first-year head coach. You really changed a lot of things up front, and I think the Bears have even more weapons. They just kind of have a brutal schedule and division they play in.
NFC North, much tougher.
Yeah, so I think that Drake May is probably going to be a little more comfortable than Caleb if we're kind of comparing them 1-to-1. But yeah, I went over just barely. I think that their schedule's kind of workable. I think that it's not the end of the world. I think you're right, though. I think that the Patriots roster is probably not as good as their win total is going to be. But I do have faith in Drake May. I think he's going to take steps forward. I love Mike Vrabel. Like, I'm a Vrabel guy. I think that was a great hire. It was probably the best coach available. Him and Ben Johnson, kind of the top two. I prefer the proven guy who's a defensive.
Vrabel's a winner. Vrabel, by the way, talk about the win total. The Titans' win total was always kind of low, and Vrabel got them over win totals every year. Like their roster was Ryan
Tannehill, and that was with
Will Levis, and he always hit the over almost every year with the Titans. So
it's tough. I think the one thing that we're going to agree on is the Jets under. It's 5.5. I thought it was 6.5.
5.5. I didn't get it. They could get to 6. They could.
It's tough. I'm still probably leaning under just because it's the Jets.
I looked at this for a long time.
6.5. Yeah. So I'd love to hear your take on the Jets real quick.
It's very tricky because I said earlier to my buddy, I said they're a pesky 5-win team, and then I looked at the schedules like there could be 6 wins here. Like there could be 6 wins because I don't know how good New England or Miami is. Like if you told me the Jets split with both of them, I would be shocked. And that's 2 wins right there, and you only need 4 more. And it is the AFC. They play some bad teams too. And the AFC play the AFC South this year. Now the entire AFC East plays the entire AFC South, but you can pick up wins against Tennessee, Indy, Jacksonville, teams like that. But or maybe they don't play the whole AFC South. I mean, they play the whole AFC North. So my bad. They actually don't. They can pick up wins against Cleveland, but they play they play Jacksonville, they play Cleveland. So they don't have they have a workable schedule. Third place schedule. It's not the end of the world. But I think their defense is so good that I respect their defense because I think that they can win them 5-6 games. But that line is perfect. 5.5 is perfect to me. Like I think they can win 6 games and be like a pesky 6-win team. Because with Aaron Glenn this year, it's all about building a culture. Like the win total doesn't even matter for the Jets really. It's just can Aaron Glenn get them playing better football at the end of the year, and kind of like remember what Dan Campbell did in Detroit. That team was really bad the first year, but they finished a little strong, and it carried over. So if his team can just finish strong, win 5-6 games, 6 games, they could win. I generally think they could win with that schedule. So I actually went over with the Jets, but I'm not I wouldn't take that to the bank.
So I thought it was 6.5. I was like, there's no way this is a 7-win.
They're not going to win 6.5. Yeah. If it's 6.5, I go under.
The 5.5, that's tough. I think I still lean under because it kind of feels like, for one, Dolphins I think are playing for a lot this year. This is kind of the last hope for the McDaniel Tua era.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
And the Dolphins and the Patriots, I think, are going to take a step. So I think there's going to be a couple pretty significantly better teams than obviously the Bills. So I'm going to lean under, but I could totally be talked into over 5.5 wins. Like you said, that defense is great. They've retained Sauce and Garrett Wilson for the near future. I still like Breece Hall. It'll be interesting. But the Jets are the Jets. I hope Justin Fields does well.
I hope he does too.
It's hard to be out on Justin Fields, but it's the Jets, and it's kind of almost a perfect marriage for them to have Justin Fields.
Yeah, it is probably a perfect marriage. I mean, I hope he plays well. I hope he has a renaissance, but it's just like it's from what I've been hearing, it's been tough throwing the football. Who is the wide receiver 2? Is it Alan Lazard? Is it Josh Reynolds? He is still there. Yeah, it's Garrett Wilson, a bunch of nonsense at wide receiver 2. So they're gonna have to. Their O line's solid. I like Olu Fashanu at left tackle. I like Armand Membao at right tackle. So they've gone O line first round back-to-back years. So they're building blocks on the offensive line. And Aaron Glenn is probably gonna instill a culture. They're gonna have to run the ball a lot though. They're gonna have to run the ball with Breece Hall, run the ball with Braylon Allen. Because we don't know if Fields, with these weapons, I'm not so sure Fields is going to have a lot of success throwing the football. And this team is going to be in the basement for sure. I don't think it really matters how many games they win. They'll be fourth place. And real quick, before we go to the AFC West, to wrap it up, I know Jalen Ramsey's comments, like, it made some sense, but he's also in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is no better than us. They are 9-8, just like we are, almost every year. And I mean, last year was the first year in 6 seasons that we did not have a winning record. I know they have like a 15-year streak of not having a losing record.
Yeah.
Right, for sure. But like we were actually like 11-win team the year before. We were the number 1 offense the year before that. So like Pittsburgh's been the same team for the last 10 years now. Not 10 years. They've been the same team since Big Ben retired, which is 5 years ago. They've been the same team 5 years in a row. We've been pretty much the same team as well. It just comes down to when 2 is healthy or not. But we've been similar win total as them every year. So I think Jalen Ramsey's talking a little bit. Had Ramsey went to the Rams, no pun intended, I would have said, yeah, he can talk a lot of but now going to the Steelers, like they're in the same ballpark as us. We're both AFC middling wildcard teams who have no future really in the near future, at least. So, that's right. Now I get the coaching is different. You get Mike Tomlin, well respected for sure. But Mike Tomlin, all he's been doing for the last 5 years is winning 9 games. And Mike Daniels doing the exact same thing in the 3 years he's been here too. So it's not like the results are that much different to be talking.
It's easy. It's easy to hear the guy talk after he's been traded.
Of course, after he's been traded.
Ramsey, it kind of feels like everywhere he goes, there's something. So
yeah. But like he's talking like Pittsburgh's Baltimore. Like you're going to be a 3rd place or 2nd place team in your division. Like you're not winning the North. So it was a little strange. So. Yeah, but nonetheless, that's fine. You can come for the Dolphins after you trade. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't care. We'll go to the AFC West now. Yeah, we'll go to the AFC West. The Chiefs over-unders at 11.5 wins. There's juice on the under, and I'm on the under 2 just because they won. I think they were 10-1 in one score, or maybe they were 10-0.
I think it was 10-0.
They were 10-0 because they lost to Buffalo by 9 last year. That was their only loss last year. I mean, apart from the Week 18 game when they rested all their starters, they got smoked by 30, whatever it was, to Denver. Yeah. So they were 15-1 really last year with Mahomes and all the starters playing. And that one loss was to Buffalo by 9. So they won every single one-score game. They were like 10 or 11-0 in one-score games. That will not happen. I mean, even if they go 7-4 in one-score games, they pull back 4 wins. So I think that 11-6 feels much more like the Chiefs right now. That roster. I mean, they won 11-6. They won 11-6 the year before that. Won the Super Bowl. They were a 3 seed, 11-6. They didn't win all the close games. It feels like that's the kind of roster right now that we're looking at. Well, win 11, 12 games. I still think they're the class of the division. I've seen some people have Denver winning the West. I don't agree with that. Although I do like Denver a lot. Like I like their defense. We'll get into Denver, but I had Kansas City under 11.5 wins. Like I said, just too many wins to me. 11.5 is a lot of wins. And it feels like they wasted all their one-score games on last year, winning every single one of them. And they went 15-2. It feels like they got to lose some of those one-score games this year. And pull back a little bit. So I have them going 11-6 and still winning the West, but hitting their under win total.
Yeah, I'm like right there with you. Partially because I think that 10 one-score wins, it's very hard to do. At the same time, I think Mahomes will probably play a little better. He's going to have a healthier offense this year. So I think Mahomes will be a little better, but it's hard to imagine 15-2. You know, it's really incredibly impressive. But aside from that, I'm very high on the Broncos and I'm very high on the Chargers. I think the Chargers, obviously not quite as much as the Broncos. You know, they're a little hurt. Rashawn Slater out for the year.
Out for the year, huge.
Wide receiver wise, there's still question marks like Ladd McConkey, but after him, still plenty of question marks. But I do love Herbert still. You know, I think Herbert. You know, we'll get into that, I'm sure. But really, I think that the Broncos and the Chargers are both going to be teams this year that could comfortably win 9 games. You know, I wouldn't be shocked to see certainly the Broncos, but I wouldn't be shocked to see the Chargers sneak 9 wins in there. And the Raiders with Geno Smith is like, obviously the Raiders are going to feel like the 4th place team pretty comfortably here. But, you know, with Geno Smith, I mean, he's won more football games. You know, Max Crosby's a game wrecker. Ashton Genty feels like one of those guys who, you know, a lot of those guys could be game wreckers. It's NFL. It's not as easy, not college, but, you know, it's a very competitive division. That was the first bullet.
Oh, yeah.
This could be the most competitive division in football, especially if the Chiefs regress like we think they might. Yeah, year 2 Bo Nix, I think, is going to be great. Sean Payton and him seem to have an awesome marriage. It's almost like Drew Brees Jr., like he said. So I think the Broncos will be great. The Chiefs, obviously, you have to respect Patrick Mahomes. You know, he's really special. It's year after year. He's going to get Rashee Rice fully healthy. He's going to have Xavier Worthy fully healthy. You wonder what Travis Kelce's going to look like, but Noah Gray was very solid last year, so they've got tight end production if they need it. So yeah, to me, like you said, it's the Chiefs division. I think 11-6 is perfect. I have the exact same line.
Yeah.
I was over on the Broncos and the Chargers, which I'm sure you're not. Oh wait, it was 9.5 for the Chargers. Shoot,
it is 9.5.
I'm misreading.
So can they win 10 games?
Yeah, I don't think they're winning 10 games. I think the Broncos will win 10 games. I don't think the Chargers will win 10 games. So
one of them can. It's almost impossible that both of them can. Because remember, last year the AFC West played the entire NFC South and the entire AFC South. So they played tomato cans all year long, essentially. And that benefited. I mean, let's call it what it is. The Broncos and Chargers, they were good teams last year, don't get me wrong, but they benefited from playing the NFC South. You know, the Broncos were able to beat the Bucks, the Falcons, the Saints, and the Panthers, all of these. The Chargers beat all of those teams besides the Buccaneers. So they get those 3 to 4 wins that probably don't come from, you know, like now they got to face real teams. The NFC South, outside the NFC South, we went through the NFC. All those divisions are real. I think they play the NFC West or the NFC East this year. So I think the Chargers, Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders, they got to play against like the Washingtons, the Phillies, the Giants, and all those other teams. So that NFC East is not very easy either. So I just think the Chargers. This is my third lock. I have the Chargers going under 9 wins, 9.5 wins. They can win 9 games and still go under. And there's some media, there's some narrative things, there's some agenda pushing with me. I'm gonna be totally biased here. I have a Herbert agenda that I have to push, and I have to push it right now. I have to have the Chargers go under because I mean there's the Tua Herbert agenda that I gotta push the agenda. But that's not even really the reason why I'm going under. The Rashawn Slater thing is huge.
Yeah.
The Chargers, when their O-line is healthy, their team is really good. Harbaugh can do what he wants, but when the Chargers have injuries up front, changes everything about the team. I don't love Najee Harris. I do like Amarian Hampton, but he's a rookie running back, so we'll see. There's still question marks at receiver. You know, Quinton Johnston's still gonna have a role in that team, even though they do bring in a guy like Trey Harris in round 2, I believe. Lad McConkey is still there. They lose Josh Palmer, though. I liked Josh Palmer. So that receiver room is kind of just whatever to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Defensively, they were really good. I mean, look, Harbaugh changed the defense in 1 year. They were terrible under Staley that last year. They were really good under Harbaugh last year. I think they're somewhere in the middle of – I don't think they're going to be a top 5 defense like they were last year. So they might pull back a little bit. They lose Joey Bosa, which, you know, say what you want. I think he's still pretty good. He's got some left in the tank. But
it's not fun to lose Joey Bosa.
No, it's not like an end of the world thing. But, you know, he was, you know, a captain of that defense. So, you know, they lose him. I think that they're going to be fine. But, man, it felt like last year they really benefited from an easy schedule. Not to hate on the Chargers, which is exactly what I'm doing. But I just think that they benefit from an easy schedule. I don't see 10 wins in their schedule this year. They won 11 last year down the stretch. They swept Denver. I don't think they sweep Denver this year. I think they probably split, which means they have one less. Denver has one more. Denver won 10 games last year. LA won 11. I just think that LA pulls back by at least 2 games. 9-8 would hit the under. So I don't have them winning I only have them winning 8 games. So that's why I have a lock as under, because I have them winning 2 games less than the win total here. Yeah, just because I think the AFC is more competitive.
It is a little bit of a juice line. So the line is probably closer to 9 even.
Yeah,
or like 8.5 is probably a little juice over because that's
probably the right line.
Plus 105 on the over. But yeah, if it was 8.5, I think I'd take the over because I think 9 wins isn't crazy. But I don't see him winning double-digit games just with the Chiefs and the Broncos. Those are 2 better teams. So I don't imagine them winning 10 games. But yeah, the Chargers are super interesting. You know, when they're healthy, I think Herbert's great. We talked about it before. He's up there talent-wise with almost anybody. But yeah, like the receiver room is just a step behind, you know, kind of the class of the rest of the league. And when the running back room, I mean, what is it? It's Najee Harris, I believe.
Yeah, Amarian Hampton, Najee Harris. Yeah,
Amarian Hampton, I really like a lot. You know, I'm not sure he'll be one of those break on the scene boom backs, kind of how Travion Henderson looks like he's going to be.
Right.
But maybe I'm wrong. The running backs are very hard to project. But I do like the Chargers. I think that Jim Harbaugh is great. People want to play for Jim Harbaugh. And I think that they're not that far off. I think if they had gotten Devontae Adams instead of the Rams, you know, if they went cross town, who knows? Like, this is a team where with Devontae Adams, this could be a 10-win team, right? Yeah. But it just feels like maybe they're a trade away, maybe they're a piece away. But I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but I do think they're going to be solid just like they are every year.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I had to figure 2 teams have to come out. Every year the AFC, the NFL in general, has to have at least 4 new playoff teams. That's kind of just like the mode of the thing. So, you know, 2 of these playoff teams in the AFC have to come out. And I just think that the Broncos and Chargers both made it last year. They're not going to get 3 teams in the division again to make the playoffs. That was very beneficial because of the schedule breakdown. They both face the South divisions. So which are the two worst divisions, ironically enough. But one of those teams, Broncos, Chargers, has to pull back a couple wins, at least a couple wins. And I don't believe Denver. I think Denver's defense is better than LA's. I love the move of Drake Greenlaw. I love the move of Hufanga. And I just think that the Broncos have an identity a little bit more than the Chargers do, even though they both. I mean, Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton both instilled their identities on their team. But I think Bo Nix a little bit easier. Now, Bo Nix could easily have a year two where it's like a Mac Jones. He pulls back. Maybe he's not as good. Who knows? There's certainly a world where that can happen. But I trust Denver's defense a little bit more. Whereas I think the Chargers defense, as good as it was last year, I'm not sure it was as good as the numbers suggest. I think they're more of a middle of the pack defense that Harbaugh just completely, Harbaugh works his magic as a great coach. But one of these teams is, I'm not going to put the Chiefs in third place. So someone's got to be third. I'm going to go Chargers.
At the same time, it wouldn't amaze me to see the Chiefs not win this division.
Sure.
I've seen that, but it wouldn't shock me to see, because we kind of, in my opinion, like you said, Bo Nix could take a step back. But the reason I don't think that's going to happen is kind of because we really saw Bo Nix get better as the year went on.
He did.
His September was kind of shaky. And then once he got into October, November, he really was nails. He was great. And part of that was he played a pretty soft out of division schedule. But, maybe that's what you need. It's NFL still, you're still got to play against the best guys that they've got. And so sometimes that little confidence booster is very good. And so I think that his improvement throughout the season, and I think Sean Payton is a guy who gets the best out of his quarterbacks. Really something we didn't talk about is that the coaches in this division, probably the most exciting, awesome division we've seen in a long time. Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, and Pete Carroll. I mean, those are four Hall of Famers.
Those are four Hall of Famers.
Those are four Hall of Famers, and it's going to be awesome. So competitiveness wise, this division is going to be so fun to watch. I wish the Raiders had a few more guys because the Raiders could.
But I like Bowers. I like Genty. Those are good. Those are pieces.
They're not that far up. Bowers is awesome. Genty's awesome. They don't really. Jacoby Myers is fine.
He's nice.
He's nice, but they need a few more pieces. But the AFC West is going to be a lot of fun to watch, and don't be shocked if the Chiefs don't win it this year. Yeah,
as a send off here, the coaches in this division, Andy Reid's a three-time Super Bowl champion. Excuse me. Sean Payton's won a Super Bowl. Pete Carroll's won a Super Bowl. Jim Harbaugh's been to a Super Bowl, and he's a national champion in college. All four of these coaches have either won a Super Bowl, been to a Super Bowl, or are a national champion. Or they actually have both. So it's just unbelievable. All four coaches in this division. It's gonna be a fun division to watch. Like, you're not missing any. Like, I talk about the AFC South. Like, is anyone watching Titans Colts this year? Probably not. In this division, there's not a single matchup that you don't want to watch. Because heck, even Raiders Broncos, you get Sean Payton and Pete Carroll. Those guys from back to Saints Seahawks from their days there. Chiefs Chargers with Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh against
Brock Bowers could be the best tight end in the league this year.
100%. By the way, Chargers, Raiders, Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, these guys have ties from Stanford and USC. Then they have ties. They also have ties to 49ers, Seahawks. Now they're back in the same division again. It happened in college, Stanford, USC on the West Coast. It happened in San Francisco and Seattle on the West Coast.
They can't get enough of each other.
And now they're back on the West Coast again with Raiders, Chargers. So they go NFC West to AFC West. And those Seahawks-Niners games in the early 2010s were incredible between Pete Carroll's Seahawks and the Jim Harbaugh's Niners. And now we get in the mid-2020s, we get again Jim Harbaugh's Chargers against Pete Carroll's Raiders. It'll be a fun division, man. I'm excited for this division. I assume the Chiefs are going to win it, but I have the Raiders going over and winning 7 games. That's my last one. So I have Denver going over, winning 10 games. I have Raiders going over, winning 7 games, and then I have the Chiefs.
I Raiders over as well.
Just a pesky 7-10 team. If they win 6 games, it wouldn't surprise me. But
that offense alone could win them 6 games.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, the defensively they got Max Crosby, not much else, but.
Jeremy Chin, I liked him, but it kind of feels like there's quite a few. And they did just trade. I can't think of his name. The cornerback of the Eagles.
Yeah. Then they lose Wilkins to some weird stuff there, so it's unfortunate.
Yeah, we're still waiting on what happened there. Just all I heard was that it's weird.
Craziness, right? Yeah. So, but overall, I think the AFC West is gonna be really fun. But this is a good. I mean, look. I think we agree on most of the things. In the AFC, we disagree on the Bengals mostly, obviously.
Well, it's tough because I think we agree on the Bengals. I think we just disagree at how bad the defense is going to be. Because I think we both think that I wouldn't be shocked if the Bengals were the number 1 offense in the league, just like last year. But defensively, it could be number 32 defense in the league. So it is tough.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. So, but yeah, thanks for tuning in to our over-under, our special over-under win total as we are less than 2 weeks away. Are we less than 2 weeks away or are we exactly 2 weeks away? I think we're
today's Tuesday, so we're
2 weeks from Thursday away from Cowboys, Eagles. We got 1 preseason game left.
We got college football this weekend. So
we got college football this Saturday. Week 0, Dublin, Ireland, and Farmageddon. But yeah,
Anniversary
awesome.
of full state collapse.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just awesome to have football back. I mean, it's just awesome to have football back. Yeah, well, exactly. So I just can't wait. A lot of these are just awesome matchups. I mean, we'll preview week 1 probably 2 weeks from now as we get closer to NFL week 1, and then obviously college football week 0/week 1 is next week and the week after that. So we'll get into that for sure. But it's just awesome to have football back. And thanks George for hopping on today. And great episode here. We'll be back next week. Yep. Looking forward to it.